The future isn't humans versus AI. It's humans with AI, and there's the other ones that are writing briefs like it's 2012. The edge isn't just speed, it's actually what you do with the extra time that AI gives you. Welcome to Process of Elimination. I'm Justin L. Brown.
I'm Ryan Edwards.
And today we're talking about why AI should make you sharper, not just faster, and what happens when people lean too far either direction. What happens when teams move quick, concise in their minds, and then making it into something that's really fast?
I mean, that's actually an interesting question because there's really two questions in that. Okay. What makes AI smarter and what makes you better because of AI, which are two parts of an equation. So the whole thing, you have to balance out, we all learned this in like high school. You have to balance out both sides of the equation in order for things to work right. That's what's going on. You can make your AI smarter in a couple different ways by training it, by creating a prompt library of very intricate prompts, and by customizing it, whether that through be GPTs, projects, or custom GPTs, or building your own AI. You can do that and make it smarter. But here's the thing, the smartest AI in the world doesn't make people smarter. And that's the second part of the equation. So using the AI in a way that's calculated to make both the individual and the team smarter, increase the knowledge base is key. Part of that is you don't want to use AI for everything. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And you should break it down into those small steps, that paired perspective that we always talk about. Where in AI, you could use an AI to complete a big complicated tasks, but you're going to get C+ level product on it. Or you can break that tasks down into like 5 steps, a workflow. And then at each point, the team can discuss the outputs, adjust it. And that's how the team gets smarter and the people get sharper using AI. That's how you balance the equation.
We've had this conversation before, and we've talked about how making sure that you have those stop points and digestible bites going into each AI interaction that you have is important, so that way you can check the work along the way.
And that's an interesting term you brought up, interaction. People don't talk about this yet with AI. You prompt AI and say, tell me this. That's not interaction. That's just,
Dictation.
Yeah, exactly. Dictation.
Yeah.
If you have that conversation with AI and say, hey, AI, I'm trying to find out about this. Here's the context. Give me some ranges. And then have that interaction with AI and prompt into that with the answers. That gets you sharper and smarter and trains the AI.
So when you say AI should make you dangerous, like I would love to know kind of what you mean by that. Is AI is supposed to make you more elevated as opposed to just an executional task?
Yeah. And first of all, AI should make you dangerous in a good way. Unfortunately, AI is often making people dangerous in a bad way too.
Yeah.
So dangerous can go both ways.
Yes.
We're going to talk about how AI can make you dangerous in a good way.
Yes.
And what I simply mean by that is that AI should do two things, always be doing two things. And if it's not doing these exact same two things in parallel, you're not using AI right. AI should be creating more time for you to do other tasks. And AI should be giving you more to think about and more directions to go and take those tasks into your free time. It should be doing those two things together. And that combination is what makes you dangerous. I mean, imagine this. Yes, I use AI extensively. I use, 5 or 6 custom GPTs to get tasks done every day. Now, I could do that. And I could say, I have now done 20 hours of work in 2 hours. And I can go for a quantity volume game. I can say my deliverables are way up and just pump out more of the same stuff. But what's going to happen with that is eventually other people are going to be doing that. And all of a sudden there's going to be less and less value and me pumping out the same stuff. What makes me dangerous is I can take that, what it's pumping out, and I can have that thought experiment with me, with my teammates, and with AI and say, what's the next step? What are the 3 different possibilities where I can take this and push that further? Now I'm getting dangerous because now I'm taking that free time and I'm applying it to the logical outcome and the purpose of the original task. I'm extending the original task. And when you extend, you create value. And in the end of the day, every business is in the same business, selling value. So if you're using AI to create value like that, you're dangerous in a good way.
I totally resonate with that. I remember us talking before about how companies will rate the value that AI gives them. So you'll have an employee doing a task as an A task, an A plus task, or potentially a C task. And with AI and this particular company that you were talking about, you were saying that the output would always be a minimum of a B plus output. What you just said is how you can make sure to elevate that output that the AI was doing, and then make sure it's always up to like that A plus version. So I wanted to give you the floor to talk about that a little bit. Do you remember that conversation we had?
Essentially, a misunderstanding a lot of people have about AI is you think because AI is remembering your chats, remember what you did, and it's learning, that learning means it's improving and giving you better answers. The reality of the fact is as AI learns what you're working on and is doing more learning, as often as not, it's actually becoming more generalized. And it becomes itself more incentivized to give you the answers it has learned that you wanted. So it's a lot of ways, it's actually learning to appease you, not to just give you the better answer. And that's just an accidental outcome of anything you build. You teach it, you learn it, you teach it what you want, and it appeases you. So the catch-22, that's the catch-22 of it. And that's why what I said is, if you're perpetually getting B pluses out of AI and you're not doing that paired perspective, your B pluses degrade over time because it's learning the same B pluses, but that B plus turns into a B, turns into a B minus, because other people are now copying and doing it. There's other products out there possibly, or it's just giving you the same thing, and yet it's causing you personally to stagnate. That's the danger of AI. But that paired perspective, that approach that we're talking about, where you're actually truly interacting with AI and not just, as you said, dictating to AI, allows you to break out of that.
I feel that people are running into that are using AI, and what is happening is that they end up trying to do more kind of the same, but just more of it, which is leading to a little bit of a AI burnout. How do you make sure that when you're delivering the product that you need to deliver and you're going through your process and you're doing your ideation, that you don't necessarily full on burn out in just trying every single tool, trying every single question? Like, is there a way where it could be a little bit more of a balance between what we traditionally have always done as human beings as in general, and now this amazing tool that can potentially give us an answer with the very next prompt?
Yeah, and you can spend your entire day looking at AI solutions to help you solve a single problem. And you can easily go down a rabbit hole of 6-8 hours signing up for trials, doing stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it's kind of a balance. Do you have a product, an AI, a solution, Anthropic, Claude, ChatGPT, that you prefer to work with? Work with that. And the key here to me, and what I advise people when I've seen work, is don't go for the ultimate efficiencies. You want to go for the ultimate way to gain knowledge and to complete tasks, and balance that. And put common sense time limits on yourself. Say, hey, if I'm going to go looking for a new tool, I want to have 3 tools within a half an hour, and give yourself that goal. Because if not, you're going to be like me, and you're going to find yourself 3 hours later and still not having 3 tools to work for. And I can guarantee you, you can always find 3 options within a half an hour.
I resonate with that because for me, I know that usually the task that I'm really going after is going to take me a certain time limit. AI and the tools that I'm using breaks down that ideation process a little bit faster for me. So now I try my best to still use that time that I allotted for myself, but now I can get to go deeper. And as long as I'm moving forward, I want to make sure that I feel like that original outcome that I could have had is now a lot more thought out, a lot more strategic. It's clear to, more of a generalized audience. So that does make sense.
And the key is also to know what your end goal is. A problem that we see a lot is people say, I want AI to speed me up. Great. What's your end goal? What's your product? And people don't know what that is. If your end goal is to write a book, I talked to somebody about this who was trying to figure out how to make their own custom GPT to write a book. I'm like, just use Grammarly, because that's all you're looking for is a grammar checker. But I knew another person who wanted to do a lot of research to write a book. And then I talked them through how to make a custom GPT to help them to do research, because they needed that. They need to customize it and really build it out for that outcome of compiling all the research they needed. Those 2 use cases, same thing, a writer writing a book, but they had different outcomes, so different tools.
So this brings us to our favorite topic, because we want to actually come up with some solutions here.
Taco Bell?
Taco Bell.
Yes. Our favorite topic.
The favorite topic that we have when it comes to this right here is our 3 modes of AI use. We have execution, we have acceleration, and then we have insight. And I want to dive into each one of those modes so that way people could really have some sort of framework when it comes to whether they should use something as simple as a Grammarly, as you were saying earlier before, or you need to actually build something a little more robust like you were building out for research and development. So the execution portion is like, you're drafting an email, you're summarizing a doc, you're brainstorming like 5 headlines. The acceleration portion is you're trying to do more of a smarter brief, like make cleaner decisions and faster iteration. And then with insight is how does that compare to past campaigns? What type of themes are we missing? And what happens if we flip people's POV on it? So that way you can always make sure that the way that you're utilizing it is as impactful as it possibly can. So starting with the execution of the 3 modes, what do you feel like? We talked a little bit about the execution portion, whether it's something simple, something quick, but like when you're going through each of those, how should people really utilize those 3 modes?
Well, for execution, and one thing first of all is I love those 3 modalities that you brought up. But keep in mind, they're a flywheel. You're never ending. You're not just going 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm done. It's 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 1, then 1, 2. It's a flywheel like that, and that's how you define growth and scalability, particularly using these AI tools.
Yes.
And to talk about execution, one thing that a lot of people miss on execution is, and I found everybody in the world falls into this same trap. You get myopic on the simple task that you're performing. And how do I perform that task better? But the key to execution is standing back and saying, is this a single task for me? Is this a task for a team, be it a team of 2 or a team of 10? Or is this a task that's broader? And the reason for that is simple is you can fine tune that execution for a person, for an example, that's meant to be a team. And that one person execution falls apart, and vice versa. I've seen places hyper create their SOPs around the team when it's really a personal execution. So that's the first step in execution, is taking a step back and understanding who is part of this execution. And then
Yeah.
the second part is just making sure that does that execution need to be repeatable? Does that execution need to be scalable? Or is it really just a one-off execution?
Mm-hmm.
If it's a one-off execution, break things, just get it done, do whatever it is. If it's something that is scalable and repeatable, take the extra 10 minutes. Take the time that you save in using AI to figure out how to make this repeatable and scalable.
That's great. I know with my job, I am always asking myself that question. If it's a process that I have some sort of insight that this is going to be something I need to repeat over and over, I will work overtime to make sure that I can understand exactly what that is and make sure that the process that I'm going through is going to be something that I will be able to repeat the next time, and it'll likely be a little faster the next time by making sure all of the processes are in place that I can execute against.
Yeah. And here's the hardest thing. I struggled with this in execution in AI for a while. Finally gotten down to a good cadence of doing this, which is I want to execute things for me. And then I want to, I want to scale it down. And what I mean by that is I want to make it so now that I have it done and I have an SOP for it, I can give it to somebody who functions, who's an assistant, who can then take over that execution, take over that element. But I use AI to give me instant access and insights to how they're working.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other way that execution is meant to be. Is this an item that you're going to take it and then you're going to give it down the ladder? Are you going to give it to an assistant? Are you going to give it to a junior? And that also dictates the outcome of it and how you want to approach creating the SOP around that execution.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that broader execution look like?
And that goes into acceleration, because your execution is that one-off. Every time you use it, every time you press play, that's your execution. But the acceleration version is, all right, now I want to make sure when I press the button, it actually is going to go back and execute the process that I put into place.
Yeah. And here's the thing about acceleration. You can't go fast unless you have confidence. If you're not, you're that guy in the movie who's running but looking behind and all of a sudden, wham, runs into a wall. If you don't have confidence in your execution, in your SOPs, in the standardization, in the outcomes, that what you're going to get, you can't accelerate because you can't move fast.
Mm-hmm.
Because acceleration, by definition, you're going to be breaking things. This is where you're going to be breaking things. This is where you're going to try 3 or 4 different things very loosely to see which one kind of works better.
Mm-hmm.
In order to break things, you want to know that what you already have figured out isn't going to break.
Yes, which goes into insight. And it really comes back to that flywheel analogy that you said earlier, where you execute, and if it's a one-off, you can stop there. Mm-hmm. If you feel like this is something that you're going to repeat again, then that's when you go into the acceleration. And after each acceleration, you go into insight. And to make sure that your insight is as valid as possible, taking that time, making sure that you really monitored every piece of that, so that way you go back into your execution mode again. That needs to go back into acceleration. That wheel starts to go, it's almost like torque. It'll go faster and faster and faster until it doesn't break.
Yeah. I had an interesting thing happen to me last week where I was working with somebody, a junior, and I created an execution, we created an SOP around it, and I gave it off to that junior person to work on. That was my acceleration. And then after she was doing it for a few hours, 6 hours, I stopped and I looked at it. I looked at what she was doing, how she was using the AI, and how it's performing, and what the outcomes were. And I realized, oh, here's my insight. My insight was that, yes, that SOP worked, but now that I see it always full-fledged out, I can now simplify it. and I can change the output now. I can change these instructions in my custom GPTs and now get a better output. Now, here's the problem. I lost 6 hours of work from that person because they were following my instructions on my first execution, but my insight created a new way of doing it that now we can scale across multiple clients. So it was a process that took like 10 hours of learning using AI. If I just would have had AI do it, it would have pumped some stuff out, but I wouldn't have gotten a regular product. Now I have a workflow using that execution, acceleration, insights, and then going back to execution. It took me a day to figure it out, but that one day figuring out is going to save me 100 hours a month.
I'm so glad you brought that up because it really goes back to the idea where anybody, sometimes you do things one time and it doesn't work out. And then there's a lot of people that would just walk away in that point because you, like you said, oh man, I just lost 6 hours. This is never going to work. I'm going to go ahead and just make myself a sandwich and then call it a day. Watch some Grey's Anatomy, think about Taco Bell. But actually coming back to it and then understanding that that first version is going to make sure that your next client, your next project, whatever that looks like, that's the savings, the 100+ hours that you would have had to like give to your clients. You are now confident going to your clients knowing that this process actually works. And we all really apply that in anything that we have failed at and then found success later in. It's always been the execute, accelerate, insight. In sports, I'm a big golf guy. It is all about failure. So I am trying to execute. Okay, that ball shanked. So now I need to find out what I need to do to make that right. It give me some insight. And then once I find something that works for me, then I'm able to accelerate that into the next things that I'm doing. So even though we're talking about AI here, this is a process that is something you could use for life in general.
Yeah, and I think part of it is like you said with golf, you're using that cycle of learning and insights to go back into it. But I think part of the problem with AI is we've gotten so used to our vocabulary being AI gives us the insights. We use AI to create insights that we're dropping that cycle out as we use AI. And we're not remembering the whole paired perspective approach, and that we need to break the cycle, because at the end of the day, AI does not actually give you insights. AI gives you options. The insight is in how a person applies all the various options they're given.
And that is how you become smarter and sharper with AI, knowing that it's giving you options. It still needs our input. It still needs us to hold his hand through the process, because ultimately the outcome of it is not something that the AI is going to look back and be like, oh man, I probably could have did something better. It's us that has to do that. So understanding that going in is going to give us way more of a chance to be successful with the outcomes that we have when we use it. So
yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So here's the move for this week. We want you to grab any tool that you've already been using, ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, any of those tools. And instead of using it to just finish the task, use it to challenge your approach, use it to reframe your hypothesis, tighten your insights. You're the strategist. Use the tool like one.
We're here to help you create with AI, not just get more stuff done.
Next time, we're going to talk about over-automation. We're going to build guardrails around your brand voice. We're going to talk about your process and how to keep your team's voice intact. Thank you for watching Process of Elimination.